Hello everybody and welcome to the channel, Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host, Krabbyterror8, and here we are in episode 25 of the Investigator Games with everybody's favourite millionaire, Preston Fairmont. Yes, so episode 25, things are moving apace through the investigators. And yeah, we're on episode 25. Now, for those of you who are new to the Investigator Games, and I apologise for those who have seen this intro a few times, but just for those of you who are new, it's like the Hunger Games. It's like a league, I suppose. What we do is we take each of the investigators from Arkham Horror, the card game, and we put them through the Gathering solo using their starter decks as provided by Fantasy Flight Games, and we see how they go, and depending on how they go, they end up in a league table like this one. And you can see that the league table has everybody from top to bottom based on their experience points, and we can see quite a range of results here with Safina Russo, Kachi and Leo at the top of the table with 7 points, which they dispatched not only the Ghoul Priest, found all of the clues, but they also managed to dispatch an additional Ghoul with a victory point to gain that. Ashcam Pete is still the, if you like, top of the table for the fastest completion of the Gathering, which he managed to do in 8 turns. Now, languishing down the bottom of the table are Calvin. Poor old Calvin took 2 physical trauma, but Zoe's down there as well. But Calvin, unfortunately, wasn't able to get 4 experience points due to a very ill-timed, what's it called? The fog. Shrouded fog, or whatever it's called. Sorry, I just can't remember the name off the top of my head for a second there, which added an extra 2 shroud to the cellar. Obscuring fog, that's the one. So that really kind of scuppered his ability to do that any further. Last week, Marie Lambeau, she only managed 4 points because she couldn't defeat the Ghoul Priest. She had no chance of getting the Shriveling, such is the case with some of these starter decks. And so she quite nobly resigned in turn 8, which puts her, sort of middling in the table, just ahead of Daisy Walker there. So, here we are with Preston Fairmont this week. Spoiler alert, if you are new to the Gathering, if you are new to Arkham Horror, the card game, stop now, go and play the game in real life, watch some how to plays. This is not a how to play. I'm assuming everybody watching this knows how to play and knows how to play the Gathering well. I could probably play the Gathering with my eyes closed. I've now played it so many times, but I actually like that. I like the idea of knowing each scenario really, really well. It's to the point where I can almost predict sometimes what's going to pop up in the at the event phase, which is quite amusing. It's become a bit of a game, actually. What's going to turn up? Is it going to be Crypt Chill? Is it going to be an Ancient Evils? You never know, but you kind of get a feel for the rhythms of the game. So, before we kick off, and you can see Preston is there in the study, he's just sitting back. His personal valet is serving him, looks like a cup of tea and a brandy chaser at the moment, and he's just sitting, relaxing. There he is, just brushing some flint off his knee from his rather expensive-looking suit. So, he's sometimes the investigators interact with the crowd, like Marie Lambeau, I think, sang to the crowd. Others are a bit more, focused on trying to beat the Gathering. Preston is just sitting, relaxing, so not really paying attention to anybody very much. So yes, I did speak to Preston in the green room before we kicked off with the Gathering. He was late. He was about 20 minutes late. So I'm looking out the window, and this, Rolls Royce rolls up, and the driver gets out, and Preston and his personal valet exit. He comes upstairs in his cashmere coat and gloves and Brill creamed hair. So he didn't seem particularly perturbed about the fact he was late. He didn't apologise, but anyway. So, and then we were served drinks. He had a Manhattan, I think, by his personal valet while we chatted. So I asked him how he would go in the Investigator Games, and he said, "What games?" "Oh, this. Oh, dear, I don't know. Is this some sort of bagatelle or something?" So I explained to him, as I just explained to you, what the Investigators was, and he sort of looked a bit blank for a second and said, "Oh, well, shall we say that playing the Instigator games and sounds all very amusing, and I don't know if I really want to. So how about I write you a small check, say for, I don't know, $2 million or something, and you can, well, shall we say, redecorate this establishment into something a bit more, well, shall we say, tasteful. Yes, that's it, tasteful. And let's just say that I did this Instigator, or whatever games it is, and you can put me on the top of the table, and I think you'll do very nicely out of it. What do you think?" Well, I wasn't too impressed with that, I have to say. So I'm not one to be bribed. I mean, $2 million would go quite nicely towards helping improve the establishment. I mean, the building itself, which is used for the gathering, is a bit run down. It's had a lot of use, so it would be nice, but no, can't be accepting those sorts of bribes. Anyway, he shrugged his shoulders and said, "Not to worry, dear chap," and put on his coat and his gloves, and him and his valet went into the arena. So I have no idea how he is going to go. He seems strangely unimpressed, and at the same time sort of uninterested in the whole thing. So I'm not really sure why he's here at all. So there you go. That's Preston for you. He's quite a curious and interesting individual. So before we start, let's talk about Preston, his skills and his stats, and what's going on in his deck, which is quite a challenge. So let's start with his skills. Now, I would direct everybody to go and watch the Whisper in Darkness Man from Lang's episode on Preston Fairmont deck tech. It was a very helpful and interesting video which talked about playing Preston. It's not often, in fact, it's the only time I've ever heard the Whisper in Darkness actually swear on his channel. Yes, he did drop the S-bomb because the challenge that Preston Fairmont represents is quite significant, and as he mentioned, we haven't seen this kind of challenge since Calvin, and we know how Calvin went with having one in every single stat. So the first thing that hits you about Preston Fairmont is he's just atrociously low on everything. So immediately this tells us that he's not going to achieve things quite the normal way that investigators are going to do. He's got reasonable mental and physical strength of 7 each. But the thing that is really that Preston is about, and is a kind of a clue to playing a Preston deck, and there's some excellent Preston decks to do with Dark Horse and things like that, which I'm not going to get into here, but there are some very creative Preston decks out there. But basically, the way that it works is anytime you gain one or more resources from a card effect, you place that on your family inheritance instead of your resource pool. Now, the family inheritance is a permanent card that sits to the side here. You can spend an action to move those resources to your resource pool, but the thing is, this gets 4 resources as the turn begins. You can spend them as you normally would, but the kicker here is that if you don't spend them, or you don't spend a turn to transfer them to Preston, you have to discard all these resources at the end of the turn. So the thing that's the challenge here is, of course, is you need to spend resources outside of the Investigator phase, sort of in the Mythos phase, which is likely to happen, there won't be any resources here on family inheritance unless you've spent that turn moving resources onto Preston himself. So it's really this balancing act of accessing, spending resources, and just managing your sort of economy between your family inheritance and yourself, because without resources, Preston has no chance in this game. So that's the way that works. So you don't gain. So for example, if you play emergency cash, for example, you wouldn't put those on you. You would put those on the family inheritance instead, because that's a card effect. But in the upkeep, you would put that on Preston Fairmont. So that's the difference there. Elder Sign is pretty good, because basically, as long as you've got a couple of resources, you can automatically succeed. So again, it's for Preston, it's all about spending money or throwing money at the problem. That's the way he deals with everything, because otherwise he's pretty useless. And in solo, this is especially critical, because it's not like a multiplayer where you've got other people there who can be doing other things. With Preston, you really are relying on those resources completely. So there you go. Now, if we actually have a look at his deck, now obviously his signature asset is already on the table because it's a permanent. So we'll just have a look at his deck. I randomly drew Paranoia, which for Preston is just no big deal. I mean, it could be possible that you've built up 20 resources, and it's quite possible in your own personal stash, and so you would lose all of those. But most of the time, I don't think this is going to be such a big deal for Preston compared to others. So interesting draw there. Now, lodged debts is his weakness, and again, it's all about money. So it's a 10 cost event. So it sits in your hand there. Costs 10. It seems like a lot, but for Preston again, he can easily build that up relatively quickly. If you basically spend 10 to remove it from the game. If you don't, then you suffer a mental trauma. So, and again, in the early campaigns, I suppose that's not such a huge deal for Preston. So it's not the world's worst weakness by any stretch of the imagination. Now, you would hope, if Preston is all about using resources to manage his lack of skills, you would hope that there's quite a lot of cards that he can use in that way, and particularly once he has some experience points, that's indeed the case. There are quite a few cards. There's also some cards in the Circle Undone set, and again, spoilers if you don't want to know about what's in the Circle Undone. There are some in this set that really seem to be designed around helping Preston or anyone who's sort of a big money type deck, and these are going to be critical in this particular scenario. So one of them is well connected. So it's you can only have one of these per investigator. So you can't have two of them on the table, obviously. And basically you exhaust well connected, you get +1 skill value for this skill test for every 5 resources that you have. So that allows you for a single skill test. If you've got 10 resources, then that would give you a +2, which seems like a lot, but you got to remember that Preston's 1 for everything. So even a sort of an average 3, you're going to need 15 resources to give him you're going to need 10 resources to give him a +3, and if you want to be 2 above, it's just not going to be enough, but it certainly helps. So that's one card. This is another card which is not doesn't sort of sit on the. This obviously sits there on in your hand. Sorry, on the table. This one doesn't. So this is a cunning. This is also along the same lines. If you have 5 or more resources, cunning gains an intellect and an evasion pip, and if you have 10 or more resources, it gains 2 intellect and 2 agility pips. So that's going to be really important for either evasion or indeed investigation. Otherwise, poor old Preston is going to be stuck in the study for a long time. There's also Money Talks, which is an event. Fast Play. So when you initiate a skill test and you use instead of the skill type, your base skill value is half the number of resources you have in your resource pool rounded down. Equal to half. So if you've got 10 resources, then it's 5. Yeah, again, very handy. So it shows that having lots of resources is going to be really helpful. These cards are going to be critical if we're going to actually get through the gathering with Preston. They're critical. These cards as well, usually these cards, Hard Knocks and Dig Deep, are like meh cards. They always turn up in these starter decks, and a lot of the time they're not very helpful, but actually in this case they are super helpful, and we really want these. If we can get both of these onto the table, that will take care of fight and evade and willpower. It doesn't take care of intellect though, so even if we do have these on the table, intellect is still an issue. And we don't have a ton of ways to manage that. I mean, we do have these cards which allow us, the cunning, and we do have flashlight, but I have to say that, and we do have look what I found. So we do have a few ways to get clues, but I have to say that probably intellect is probably the area where we're going to find it the most difficult. So that's going to be a challenge, particularly in the cellar. So it might be a case of, whilst we would normally try and get all 4 clues, I think we're going to be probably in a situation where we're getting the 3 clues, because Preston really does struggle to get clues. He's a bit clueless. Now, to help us on the way, we've got a couple of allies. We've got Leo DeLuca, which I'm hoping and praying that we get Leo in the opening hand. And there's the Stray Cat as well, which it's sort of nice to have, but Leo is pretty critical. And there's a leather coat, just as a sort of soak, which maybe we need. Now, from a fighting perspective, no Fire Axe, I'm afraid. So Fire Axe would probably be pretty good. Or Gravedigger's Shovel would also be nice because of its ability to allow you to get clues, but neither of those are in this deck. So we've ended up with the Baseball Bat, which is effective, but the problem is it's 2 hands. So if you've got the Baseball Bat out, you can't get the flashlight out. So if we do get the Baseball Bat out, we're going to want to keep it aside until we've got all the clues before we bring it out, because we don't want it taking up slots where a flashlight might be. We've got a couple of knives, which are standard. And then we've got Sneak Attack and Backstab, which, if we're going to take down the Ghoul Priest, we're probably going to need these cards. Evasion-wise, we've got a couple of options, 2 or 3 options here. We've got the Fantastic Elusive, which is always a helpful card. And I don't think we're going to be able to get Leader Chandler on board. It's going to be super difficult. It's possible, but Elusive at least would get us out of the hallway, away from the Ghoul Priest, and we can resign at the very least. And then we've got, Cunning Distraction, which normally is very expensive, but in this case with Preston, no big deal. 5, he's going to have plenty of resources, so we can automatically evade. And of course, we've also got Survival Instinct, You can disengage from every other enemy and move to a connecting location. So we've got a few evasion type skills. We've got a scavenging, which can be helpful, I suppose, if we do lose the baseball bat. The problem is you have to successfully investigate by 2 or more. So why this is in the deck, I don't know, because our ability to investigate at all is hard. Successfully investigating by 2 or more, I can't. I suppose, if we got the Elder Sign and we succeeded that way, but that feels like it's not going to be very helpful. Yeah, there's an Opportunist. There's a Rabbit's Foot and a Lucky, so they're all going to be handy. And then we've got 2 emergency caches, which I have to say, I'm not sure why they've put these in here. We could have, there's so many other better cards. Like, for example, 2 Look What I Found would have been better than emergency cache. We really don't need emergency cache. We're going to have a ton of resources anyway, so they feel like dead cards in this particular hand. This is sometimes the perversity of these starter decks that Fantasy Flight Games put out. But anyway, we make do with what we've got. So that's Preston's deck, and we'll see how we go. I think it's going to be challenging. I don't have high expectations for Preston, to be honest, but we will see how he goes. So we'll close and shuffle up his deck, like so. We're all set up in Octagon, ready to go. I've got all of the cards out on the table, just so that it saves me time. Obviously, in a real game, you wouldn't have these other cards out, but it just saves time, and we're here ready in turn 1, ready to go. So all we need to do now is just read out the act and the agenda and draw our hand. Okay, so let's begin. Let's read out the agenda. What's going on? It's late at night and you're holed up in your study, researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. Did I hire that choir again to come and sing me to sleep each night? At the same time, you hear dirt churning as if someone were digging beneath the floor. I say, what's going on? Trapped. As you get up very slowly to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes. I say, it's a strange thing, what? Leaving behind only solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. Now, I have to say again, this is kind of incongruous, because just looking at the picture of this house, it just doesn't look like a kind of house that Preston would live in. But anyway, that's neither by the by. So here we are, turn 1 of the Investigator Games. Preston and the horn sounds for the Investigator Games to begin. The crowd goes wild. Preston looks a bit shocked, and he's looking around at the crowd. The valet is just standing there upright with a martini on a tray. So Preston's not really doing very much. Normally the investigators leap up and start searching for various things. They're calling for allies to come and help. But in this case, Preston is just still sitting in an armchair in the study, looking a bit bewildered and not sure what to do. So anyway, let's draw the opening hand for Preston. So I think in terms of the opening hand, I really, really do want Leo DeLuca. So if Leo DeLuca is not in the opening hand, I think we're already starting behind the 8 ball, so to speak. I think having those cards that allow you to boost your abilities through resources is also something that would be really fantastic to get down on the table straight away. So I would like those. And also, quite frankly, I think we probably need the flashlight to start with, because without the flashlight, we are a 1 and the shroud is 2. So unless we're getting a +1 or an elder sign, we ain't finding any clues. So I think we need a flashlight to get going at the very least. So let's see how we go. So let's draw the 5 cards. First card is the baseball bat. Well, that's a good card to get. Not that we're going to put it out at the beginning, because it's two-handed. It's the biggest problem with this baseball bat. But anyway, second card is the flashlight. Excellent. So we've got a flashlight, which means we can get out of the study. Hey! Okay, so that's a good start. Third card is well connected. So that's actually really good because we can bring that out and we can use that at least once each turn. And we can spend resources. So that's also a good card. Fourth card is another well-connected. Well, we'll limit one per investigator, so two of them is not a benefit unless we use the intellect pip. And the fifth card is lodge debts, which we can't. So we'll get fifth card is money talks. So which is also a handy card as well. So yeah. So the problem is there's no Leo DeLuca. So we got the flashlight, which is great, and we got well connected, which is also good. This is good, but it's a one-off. So even if we have it, we're probably not going to use it in the short term because we probably need to use it when things really get rough. So, and the baseball bat, we're not going to use it anyway in the short term because we need the flashlight. And I really do want to get Leo DeLuca. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the baseball bat and hope it comes around again. And to be honest, the likelihood that we're going to be fighting the Ghoul Priest at the end, I mean, it is possible. But I just don't know. I mean, even when you're fighting with +2, that only gives you a 3. And then the Ghoul Priest is a 4, so you're already starting behind anyway. So what I'm going to, and it's two-handed, so I'm going to put in that. I'm going to put in a well-connected. I'm going to put this in for now because I really want to try and get Leo DeLuca. So we'll draw another 3 cards, and we get another flashlight. Well, that's okay because we're going to need the other flashlight. We get sneak attack, okay, and we get survival instinct. Okay, so no Leo DeLuca, I'm afraid, which is unfortunate because that extra turn makes all the difference. So we'll shuffle up. Okay, and here we go. We're ready to start the Investigator game. So let's get going. And the main thing with Preston is, of course, is to spend money. Is to always spend money at the problem. So first thing we're going to do is to spend 2. Bring out the flashlight and put 3 supplies on the flashlight. Excellent. That's the first thing we're going to do. And we're going to spend all this family inheritance. There is no, because we're going to lose it anyway, so we might as well spend it. And the second thing we're going to do is bring out well connected. The other thing is that and we can exhaust well connected to get +1 skill for every 5 resources. So at the moment, with 5 resources, that's a +1, which is handy. Now, the other thing, of course, is that we can't afford to lose flashlight. This is the problem with the baseball bat. We're going to need the flashlight if we're going to get the clues. So if we get a crypt chill, then we're going to have to lose the well connected. It's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. So that was our second action. So I feel like actually this is not too bad. We're actually in a reasonably okay place to actually go ahead now and let's investigate. So the valet has handed Preston a flashlight, and the valet has been making calls. Apparently, it sounds like somebody might have tipped Preston off as to where one of the clues might be or something. I don't know, but anyway, it's possible. Anything's possible. I assume that all the people who work in the Investigator Games are all above being bribed, but you never know. So it may be possible that he's got some inside information. We shall see. So for our third action, we will investigate the study. Now the study has a shroud of 2, and we are an intellect of 1, but we can spend 1 with the flashlight, which brings us down to 0, basically. So it's a 0, which means we're likely to, unless we get an auto fail, we should be fine because we can't drop below 0. So even if we got a -4, that would put our intellect down to 0, and a 0 versus a 0 means that we get it. So let's see what the Chaos Bag has for us. And the Chaos Bag, that's a bit in the way there, isn't it? Oh, the Chaos Bag has 0. There we go. So we succeed and we get one of the clues. Crowd goes wild. Preston waves nonchalantly at the crowd, hands the clue over to the valet, who dutifully puts it aside. And there we go. That's our first turn in the for Preston Investigator Games. So that was not too bad, actually. We got out the flashlight. We got out the well connected, which we didn't have to use, and then we used one of our flashlight supplies to reduce the shroud in the study to 0, which allowed us to get a clue. We spent all of our money in our family inheritance. Discard all resources at the end of your turn from this card. Well, there are no resources in there, so we've spent them all, which is what you need to do. We've still got the 5 resources here, which is fantastic, which means we'll be up to 6 next time. So if we can get it up to 10, then that becomes a +2 on every skill value, which is quite nice. The other card that goes quite well with all of this is Lone Wolf when you're playing a solo, but of course that's not in this particular deck because that's just giving you extra resources as well. Okay, so let's move into the enemy phase, or the Enema Phase, as I like to call it. And there are no enemies to speak of, and so we move into the Upkeep Phase. And there we go, we get Hard Knocks. That's great. Okay, so we'll definitely be bringing that out. We'll definitely be spending more of our family's inheritance and bringing out Hard Knocks, because then we can, we can deal with things a little bit better from a fight and from an evade perspective. Fight is problematic for Preston because if you're fighting something, usually unless it's a rats, you need more than one successful attempt, which means you're spending a lot of money, so whereas an evade is a one-off, so it's usually better to evade than fight most of the time. Okay, so that's the end of the Upkeep Phase. So then we move into the good old Mythos Phase. Now this is where things are going to start getting interesting. Here we go. We got one doom on what's going on, and it's now time for the part of the game that everybody knows and loves, and that is indeed dealing with the Mythos deck. So here we go. Encounter deck. And we get to start with, well, we get a Ghoul minion. Yes, well, there we go. So straight away. So a Ghoul minion appears in the study. Preston looks askance at the Ghoul minion. Ghoul minion looks at Preston. And the valet, his tray is starting to shake there a little bit. So there we go. Okay, this will be interesting. Okay, so that's what we have, and we will move directly into the investigation phase. We'll put 3 actions onto Preston. Okay, so here we go. Unfortunately, we don't have Hard Knocks on the table yet. And I'll put 4 on here. So we don't have Hard Knocks on the table yet. Which is unfortunate. We have a couple of choices here. We could take an attack of opportunity to bring Hard Knocks onto the table, and then that would allow us to evade the Ghoul Priest while we get this final clue. So, but then it's like pay for Hard Knocks, evade the Ghoul Priest, and then I guess we get the final clue, and then the we would get rid of. So that would work. That's a scenario that's most likely to work. The other alternative is we just try and try and evade. Now we would get a +1 skill here, which would give us a 2 versus a 2. That doesn't feel like that's a particularly viable, because this is for every 5 resources you have. Now the family inheritance is not you. So resources can be spent as if they're in your resource pool, but they're not in your resource pool. So this only is for you. So not for your family inheritance. And the other way is we could just use survival instinct. But then again, so we could use well connected to give us +1. We could throw in survival instinct to give us +2. So that would be a 3 versus a 2, which again, from a probability perspective, is just pretty marginal, I have to say. So I think the best course of action, even though we're taking some damage, is to go with the attack of opportunity and bring out the hard knocks, which is what we're going to do. We're going to spend our family inheritance. So we're going to spend 2. It's our first action, and we're going to bring out hard knocks, which means we take an attack of opportunity, 1 damage, 1 horror. Damage, horror. There we go. So that's our first action. So yes, we brought that onto the table. So now things are a little bit brighter now. So this is what we're going to do. So for our second action, we are going to evade the Ghoul Priest. So we first of all, so we're going to evade the Ghoul Priest for our second action. We're going to exhaust Well Connected. We get +1 skill for every 5 resources, so we get +1. So we now are a 2. That gives us an evasion of 2. And we can spend resources, so then we can spend from here. So that would be a 3. That's a 4. With hard knocks, I'm going to make that a 5. So we're a 5 versus a 2. That feels like a pretty safe bet. So a 5 versus a 2. Chaos Bag says -1. Okay, so we succeed in evading the Ghoul Priest. So you can see how it works with Preston. It's really about throwing money at the problem. And that was our second action, which then allows us to then, for our third action, investigate again. So we use the flashlight. It's a 0 versus a 1. Chaos Bag has -1, so we're 0-0, so we succeed in getting that clue. Fantastic. So we have our clues in the study. Thank goodness, that was quite a convoluted way of dealing with things. But what we'll do now is we will wait till the next go, because then if another monster turns up, they can be eliminated, and we can just jump into the hallway. So it doesn't make sense to go just yet. So there we go. So that was quite a turn. We took an attack of opportunity to bring out hard knocks, first of all, spending the family inheritance. We then used our well-connected plus 3 more resources to boost us up to a 5, and then we successfully evaded the Ghoul Priest. We've spent all our family inheritance, so there's none to discard here at the end of the turn, and we haven't transferred any. We're still on 5 resources, which we need to keep that up, because otherwise well connected doesn't work, and if ideally we would try to build that up further if we can. So that's the end of our investigation phase. So we move into the Enema Phase, and there is an enemy but can't find us. Where's he gone? Not sure what Preston did to evade the Ghoul Priest. But anyway, But there was that thing that he kind of clicked his fingers and the sort of lights went all weird in the study and sort of went stroby, and it went dark for a second. It was like we had a power outage. When we came back up, Preston was kind of hidden somewhere. So yeah, it feels like he's getting some help from somewhere. But anyway. And then in the upkeep phase, yeah, the good old Ghoul minion is back. Oh, there you are. And we get the Rabbit's Foot, which is a fantastic card to get because we can expect to fail quite a few skill tests along the way. So we will get that acid out onto the table along with everything else. So there's our upkeep phase. So we move into the good old Mythos phase. We're now on the second one. And let's see what the encounter deck has for us. I'm actually hoping we get another Ghoul minion or a Rats or something, because we'll just get rid of them. And the encounter deck gives us, bugger, Dissonant Voices, Still Lives, which means we can't play assets or events, which means we won't be bringing out the Rabbit's Foot. That's all right, though. Not the end of the world. Okay, so that's the end of the Mythos phase. So we move into the investigation phase. We put 3 actions on to Preston. It's a pity we haven't got Leo DeLuca, but hopefully he will turn up shortly. And, well, I think it's pretty straightforward what we do here. The first thing that we do before we do any actions is to spend the 2 clues. And flip the trapped. You notice the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. I say, the help is terrible round here. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see a door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob and the door swings open, revealing the hallway below. Hey, what a rum thing, those architects. Amazing these days. You jump through the doorway, landing on your feet on soft dirt. The door to the study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rotten decay. When I told those architects I wanted an organic build, I didn't mean dirt on the floor and smell of rotten decay, for God's sake. Put into play the set-aside hallway, cellar, attic, and parlour. Discard each enemy from the study, place each investigator in the hallway, and remove the study from the game. So let's do that. So good old Preston goes, whee! Boing. Into the hallway. Flip the hallway. Doink. Study goes. Bye-bye. Doink. Ghoul minion. Gone. Bye-bye. Okay, so let's read the next bit, which is the barrier. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlour. I say, what are those servants doing in there? Hello? What have you done to my parlour? As you move towards it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt. Ew. No, I'm not doing that. I say, Jeeves, come over here, will you? Will you pick up a handful of dirt and throw it at that shiny thing over there? Yeah, there's a few dollars in it for you. You toss it at the barrier and watch in horror. Oh my God, I never knew dirt incinerated. Rum thing. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. I say, Jeeves, something in the attic that can help there, you think? Oh, what about the cellar? Well, yes, there is a Chateau Neuf de Pape 72. Yes, maybe that. No, I'd rather drink that. No, something else. I say, Jeeves, can you go down there or up to the attic and see? Oh, you want me to come along? Oh, all right. Wait, stairs? What? A ladder? I say, man, what do you take me for? When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may, as a group, spend the requisite number of clues to advance. There we go, the barrier. So here we are. Dissonant voices are causing us a bit of a problem. So we can't play assets or events. So, yeah, well, that kind of restricts what we can do this turn. I've got to put the 4 on here. So there's 4 resources there at the beginning of our turn. Yes. So, starting to sound like Preston Fairmont. So, here we go. I've got to remember to keep in and out of character here. Oh boy, I'm just in a drink of tea. Okay. So we've got four resources here on the family inheritance. So we can't play any assets of rent. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually, we're not going to be able to play anything here anyway. But what I am going to do is spend a turn and transfer these to us. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Move all resources from this card to your root. So that's really handy. It's really good that when you have those turns when you can do fewer things. We've now got 10 resources on us, which means this is now +2, which is fantastic. So that's great. That's a good start. Then for our next action, we'll move up to the... I should have got a bigger image. Oh dear. Oh, there we go. That was it. I must remember to use a bigger image next time. There we go. We move up to the attic. Ah-dee-da. Up to the attic. And, yep, 2 clues. 1, 2. And, yeah, we take a horror. I say, it's filthy up here. Oh my God, Jeeves. So, take a horror. And so, yes, we're up in the attic. And for our next action, I don't want to use the flashlight because I want to probably keep the flashlight for the cellar, ideally. But having said that, we're a little bit better off. So this has got a shroud of 1, and we are a 1. But now we have 10 resources, so we get +2. So why don't we give this a go? So we'll exhaust Well Connected, which gives us a 3 intellect versus a 1. So 3 versus 1. Chaos Bag gives us a skull, which is perfectly fine, and we get one of the clues. Brilliant. Fantastic. Whew. Okay, so that was actually quite a successful round. Actually, we got out of the study. And so we got rid of the ghoul minion. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't play any assets or events. So what we did was we transferred the money from our family inheritance to ourselves, which gave us 10 resources. We then moved up to the hallway and took a horror, and then we used Well Connected to find the next clue because we then have 3. So that's really good. So we got to get more resources up here because this is actually a really, really helpful card for us to do things. In fact, I'd say it's an essential card for Preston Fairmont. You can imagine actually this with something like Lone Wolf in a solo game is really going to be quite good actually. So there we go. That's the end of our turn. We've got no resources to get rid of there. Oh, that's the end of the round, so we have to keep that. Sorry, that's the end of our turn. So we can now move into the next phase, which is the Enema Phase, and there are no enemas to speak of. So we move into the Upkeep Phase. We get a Unexpected Courage, which is a nice card. I wish there was a Leo DeLuca, but anyway. Hopefully he will turn up sometime soon and we might start drawing out cards. So that's a good card because it's flexible and allows us to use it for all kinds of skill tests. So there we go. So we move into the Mythos Phase. Here we go. So there's now 3 on here, so we will flip this. And we have, your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. Oh, that's where my tennis racket went. Oh, wondered. Oh, there's my polo set. Ha ha, yes. It's about time I had another polo game, I think. Anyway, what was I doing again? What are we doing here in the attic again, Jeeves? What are we doing? Oh, that's right. Looking for clues or something in this instigatory... What's it called again? Games? Boring. The lead investigator must decide. Choose one. Either each investigator discards a card at random from their hand or takes 2 horror. Okay. So, of all these cards, the flashlight is probably the one which we don't want to lose, because when we get down into the cellar, it's going to be a 4. So unless we've got the flashlight, so it's whether we risk, because there's a 1 in 5 chance that we would lose the flashlight. The other alternative is we take another 2 horror. That gets us up to 4, which then means we've only got 3 horror soak. So that's pretty bad, because we're really kind of, all we need is a rotting remains to come along, and we're pretty much toast. So I think we're going to have to risk losing the flashlight and just hope it doesn't happen. So let's do a random draw. Random discard, and we lose. Okay, yep, we lose survival instinct. Okay, not great. That's actually quite a good card, but the thought of like going out on a rotting remains is much more of a problem. So there we go. So yep, that's that. So we'll read the next one. The Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. Is this some sort of impromptu theatre production or something in my home? I say, it's rather interesting, don't you think, Jeeves? What's the problem, man? You seem a bit out of sorts, knees knocking and sweating and all. What? Enjoy the show. It's a lot of fun. So there we go. We can get rid of this as well. There we go. Okay. So we're now in the next phase of Rise of the Ghouls, and Preston's doing okay. It's whether he can get through the cellar. And then we're going to work out how we're going to deal with the Ghoul Priest, but one thing at a time, one bite of that elephant at a time. So let's see what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has rats. Yes, it has rats. Okay. Okay. All right. I think we should be okay with rats. Yeah. Okay. So we move into the investigation phase. We put 4 resources onto our family inheritance. We put 3 actions onto Preston. And here we are in the attic. So we've got to deal with these rats first. And it's essentially we fight them or we evade them. Now, evasion is quite difficult, but we do have the resources to do it. So we could spend to evade the rats. Equally, though, I think it's just as easy to kill the rats, because we're a 1 fight. We can make that a 3 fight, and that is likely. Hopefully, we could even throw in unexpected courage, although it feels like. You see, this is only a one-off because it's exhausted and then that's it. Yeah, so it feels like we probably, because we need 1 versus 3, it's not a ghoul. So it probably feels safe-ish. So then what we'll have to do, if that's not the case, then we'll have to evade the rats instead. So plan B is if we're going to fight the rats. I suppose we can spend 1 resource because we've got 11, and we can transfer. Oh, we can spend all these other ones here. We've got all these resources here. So yeah, I think we'll be okay. So let's in the first instance, let's see how the fight goes, and then if not, we'll just throw a ton of money at it and see how we go. Okay, so the first action is to fight the rats. So exhaust the well connected. So we get +2. So that gives us a 3. 3 fight versus 1. So it's a -2 or better. Chaos Bag gives us a -3, so that fails. Okay. All right. Well, then I guess it's a plan B. So, which is to, I think we're going to need to do this. So let's bring in the Unexpected Courage. So so we're going to evade, or should we fight? No, fight would give us. What would fight give us? 1, 2, 3. 3 versus 1. That's better than throwing all our money away. Or we evade the rats. Problem is, if we evade the rats, then we'll get the clue and then the rats will be back. So why don't we fight the rats again? So 1, 3. 3 versus 1. -2 or better. Chaos Bag gives us -1. Yeah, okay, so we succeed. The rats are dead, but that took 2 actions, so that was a bit of a bugger. And now we're got a dilemma here, because either we can use the flashlight. So we've got a couple of options here. Either A, we can get this clue, which is a 1, but we've lost our well connected because we usually use the well connected. So it'd be a 1 versus 1. No, so that's actually not going to happen. So we're not going to do that. So then we have a couple of other options, which is we either put this money off family inheritance onto Preston, or we spend one of the 4 and bring out the rabbit's foot. Personally, I think we're better off spending the time getting the money. Yeah, so there we go. That's our final action. So we called Daddy's accountant and got him to transfer a bit of extra money to us. There we go. So that's our go. So that was a very frustrating turn, because we tried to kill the rats and failed. We then used our Unexpected Courage to fight the rats again, and we succeeded. And then we spent our last turn transferring the money across. So we've now got 15 resources. So now we get a +3, which is great. So that's actually really, really good. But unfortunately, you have to exhaust it, which is a bugger. But that's good. So the thing about Preston is, the more resources he has, the better off he is. I would like that rabbit's foot down, but I think, that'd be next turn. So that was a bit of a wasted turn, that we didn't get anything done, but that's the way it goes in the Investigator Games. So we move into the enemy phase, and we didn't need to discard any resources because we transferred them. And then we move into the Upkeep Phase, and we get another Unexpected Courage, still no Lea DeLuca. And no weapon, which, we're going to need a weapon if we're going to take out this Ghoul Priest, because we have a way to fight. I mean, if we have a ton of resources, we can fight the Ghoul Priest with money, essentially. So it would be good to have the baseball bat or something like that, but we've got time. We're not looking at that just yet. So we move into the Mythos Phase. First on the Rise of the Ghouls. So let's see what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has, now this is where things could get really hairy, is we have grasping hands. Now it's not as bad as Rotting Remains, but we still don't want to, a couple of these, and again we can be in real dire straits. So this is a test 3 evasion. So I don't think I'm going to need this. I'm not going to need it. Oh yeah, I am going to want it, aren't I, for that? So it's yes. So just thinking through this now gets +3, but if we use it now, we won't be able. We'll be basically 1 versus 1 in the attic. So what I'm thinking is, and then if we use our resources, So what we might do is we're a 1. Let's use our Unexpected Courage to bring that up to 3. And let's spend 1 resource to bring that up to 4. So that would give us a 4 versus a 3. It feels okay. I don't want to spend more than that at the moment because I want to keep those 15 resources. So that's a 4 versus a 3. Chaos Bag gives us an Elder Sign. So it's a 0. So 4 versus 3 is fine. We don't have to spend money to succeed because we're already ahead. 4 versus 3. So that's fine. Okay. So so we succeeded there with the Grasping Hands. Fantastic. Okay. Great outcome. Okay, so we'll move straight into the investigation phase. 3 actions on Preston, 4 resources in the family inheritance. Okay, there we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spend one of these family inheritance resources, and I'm going to bring out the Rabbit's Foot. So that's good because that means if we're failing things, at least we're getting a card, and we're getting a bit low on cards, mainly because we're bringing them all out. So that's the first action. Second action, we're going to investigate the attic, and I'm going to exhaust Well Connected. So we get +3, which gives us a 4 versus 1. 4 versus 1. Chaos Bag gives us an Elder Sign again. Wow. Well, we don't need to spend 2 resources for that. So we get the second clue, and there is our first victory point. Crowd goes wild. Preston looks around bewildered. But there you go. So we're doing okay. So I think we will spend an action to get out of the attic. So there we go. That was a pretty good round. So we for the first action we brought out the Rabbit's Foot. Then we got the final clue in the attic with an Elder Sign. And then once we did that, I suppose we could have transferred the money again, but I think we've got to keep moving. So what we did instead is we moved to the hallway, which means we lose these 3 resources here. And that's the end of our turn. So next time, obviously, we'll be getting down to the cellar and getting investigating happening. So yes, I could have stayed in the attic and gotten more resources, but we're going to get another resource anyway. And I think the problem is then we've got 2 moves just to get down into the cellar. And so I think it's probably better to get moving because it's already turn 5. So there we go. Maybe that will be the end of us at the end when we need more resources. But anyway, we'll see how we go. So that's the end of our turn. So we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase and we get Look What I Found, which is a great card to get for down in the cellar, because that could mean either we don't need it and therefore we can use it with Leader Chandler, or it means that we get 2 clues on the location straight away, which would be fantastic. So great card, but we still don't have any weapons and we still don't have Leo DeLuca. But then again, if we get Leader Chandler, then we probably wouldn't keep Leo DeLuca anyway. So there we go. So we now have 2 Doom on Rise of the Ghouls, and we then move into the encounter phase. Then we have a look at what's in the encounter deck, and the encounter deck gives us a Ghoul minion. So actually, I'm glad, I suppose if we'd been in the attic, but I'm glad we didn't go down to the cellar, because then we would have had a Ghoul minion in the cellar, whereas now we're in the hallway. It means we can evade the Ghoul minion and get into the cellar and investigate the cellar without too much harassment, which isn't too bad. So there you go. There we go. So that's the Mythos phase. So we move into, we're in turn 6 now, and we move into the, hello? Yep, there it is, investigation phase, better late than never. Put 3 actions onto Preston. Put 4 resources into here. There we go. Okie dokie. So what are we going to do here? So, yeah, probably evasion. We don't want to fight the Ghoul minion. So we can can do a couple of things. We can evade the ghoul minion. We could either use the well connected, which we've got +3 for, to evade, because if we don't, then we've got to start using this spend the resources here. Oh, but we've got the resources over here, so we could just throw these resources at it. That's a 2 event. That's okay. That's if we fail, so we might not fail anyway. So what I'm going to do is spend, here we go. So we are a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to make ourselves a 5 versus a 2. So that was using hard knocks. 5 versus a 2. Chaos bag gives us a -1, so we successfully evade the ghoul. Where's he gone? That was our first action. Second action is to move into the cellar. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Clicked on it. There we go. 2 clues on the cellar. We take a horror. I only had 1 horror before, so yeah, because I took an attack of opportunity from the ghoul minion. I'm not sure where the other damage would have come from, so he should only have 2 on him. Yes, because there's no other time he's taken any damage apart from that attack of opportunity. So I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll leave that at 2. So that's 2 and 2. So yeah, we evaded, we moved, so that's the second action. Third action is probably to investigate, I think. So we can use the flashlight to do that. So we spend the final resource on this flashlight, which reduces this to a 2, and we are a 1. But we can exhaust well connected, which gives us +3. So we are now a 4 versus a 2. We are a 4 versus a 2. Now, if we fail by 2 or less, we can use look what I found. So I'm sort of hoping that happens. So a 4 versus a 2. See what we get. Chaos bag gives us a -3. So we're a 4. It's a 2. So we go 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 versus 2. So we do fail. However, and because we fail, after you fail a skill test, exhaust a rabbit's foot and draw a card, which we do. Fantastic. Money talks. Very nice. So we failed the skill test. However, we can now spend 2 resources and bring out, look what I found. Fast play after you fail a skill test by 2 or less. Discover 2 clues at your location. So we get both clues. That worked. Oh. That's 2 clues here. 1, 2. Well, that couldn't have worked out better. That's fantastic. So, just to recap, we evaded the ghoul minion. First action. Second action, we moved into the cellar. Took the damage, and we've now got 2 damage on us. 1 from the attack of opportunity and 1 from moving into the cellar. And then for our third action, we investigated. We used the flashlight to do this, which brought it down to 2. And we used our well connected, which gave us 3. So it was a 4 versus a 2. So we had to do -2 or better. We failed by 1, which means the rabbit foot was exhausted and we drew a card. And at the same time, we were able to play Look What I Found and discovered 2 clues at location. Fantastic. What a great combo. That all worked really, really well. So there we go. And that's indeed the second victory point. And the crowd goes wild. Preston waves nonchalantly at the crowd. Brilliant. So we now have all of the clues. So now what we've got to do is turn our attention to what the hell we're going to do about the Ghoul Priest, because that's the next thing. we're going to have to look at. And at the moment, we've got no allies and we've got no weapons. So anyway, we move into the enemy phase. The enemy is evaded. So we move into the upkeep phase. They're gone. And here we go. We get a good old emergency cash. Yeah. So, okay. Of all the cards we could have got. Yes. So we really do need a weapon. Maybe a backstab as well. Like, either we need things like sneak attack and backstab if we're actually going to do this. But at the moment we don't have any of those things. So it's not gonna be easy. We move into the Mythos phase. There are 3 on here. The encounter deck gives us rats. Okay. Alright, more rats to deal with. No big deal at all. Okay, so we can move now into the investigation phase, and we put 3 actions onto Preston. Okay, first thing we're going to do is deal with these rats. So, well, I think we just kill the rats. So I think we just use 4 on here. So I think what we do is we exhaust well connected, which gives us 3. So it's a 4 versus a 1. Chaos bag gives us -2, so the rats are dead. Fantastic. So that's the first thing that we do. That was our first action. Now we've got 2 more actions. I don't want to move into the hallway because there's a ghoul minion sitting there. So we've got a couple of things that we can do here. We can either give ourselves a shit ton of cash, because we could do emergency cash, which would go into the family inheritance, and then we could transfer that 7 into, I mean, that would give us a massive amount of cash. But right now, I do want to transfer the money, so I think I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to have 20 resources as of next upkeep, which means that they're going to get +4 for a skill test. Wow. And then for the last action, because the first action we did was kill the rats. Second action was to transfer the money. Third action, we're just going to draw a card, and we get another one of these money talks. So this is fantastic, because actually with money talks, that would give us +5. The base skill value will be 5, which is great for the Ghoul Priest. The problem is we need to be doing +2, so we need the baseball bat. If we can get the baseball bat, we might actually be able to kill the Ghoul Priest, because we could evade the Ghoul Priest. We could do 2 points there, and then we really could bring the pain to the Ghoul Priest. And I think we would have a shot at doing it. But at the moment, without a weapon of any kind that does extra damage, it means we're looking at doing 5 points of damage, which means we've got to succeed 5 times. So we do need a weapon of some sort, or Leader Chandler. So we could use one of these to actually get Leader Chandler on board, which would give us a +1. So I'm actually thinking that's a really good idea. But if we can get a weapon and Leader Chandler, that would be great. So I think we draw some more cards, but I'm starting to think that actually we can use one of these money talks to basically pay Leader Chandler, get her on board. Then we're going to be +1 fight and +1 damage. That's going to be terrifically helpful in terms of killing the Ghoul Priest. Okay, that's the end of our turn. So basically I'm just trying to think what we did now. This turn we killed the rats. We transferred the family inheritance, and then we drew a card. Okay. Enemy phase, no enemies to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase, we get a knife. Well, I guess the knife is better than nothing. So that's kind of helpful, but not as effective as the baseball bat, obviously, which would be really, really good to get. Okay, so let's move into the Mythos Phase. There are now 4 on here. We really don't want to leave this tool the next trigger, if possible, because that's when things start to get really nasty. And there's one thing, Preston's okay with dealing with one thing, but dealing with multiple ghouls and things is just going to get really nasty. So we really don't want that to happen. So we move into the... hold on. We have to, before we move into the investigation phase, let's have a look what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck gives us a Ravenous Ghoul. Oh boy. Okay. Oh no. Oh, I hate this card. Okay. Ravenous Ghoul. 3/3/3. We're gonna have to deal with this Ravenous Ghoul. So yeah. Okay. Really hate the Ravenous Ghoul because it's quite tough to kill and you don't get any points for it. Anyway, let's move it. So we're in the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Preston, 4 resources onto the family inheritance. So what do we do? So we've got basically we've got 2 options here. We can fight. We could fight the Ravenous Ghoul, but to fight the Ravenous Ghoul, we would be using up these. I mean, we could evade first of all, then we could use sneak attack and do 2 points of damage, and then we could then spend a third resource, more resources, and we could kill the Ravenous Ghoul. So that's one way of dealing with it. The which doesn't feel great. The other way of dealing with it is to evade it, bring out the knife, and then throw the knife at the Ravenous Ghoul, but that wouldn't kill it. That would just do 2 points of damage. Or we evade the Ravenous Ghoul. I mean, we just use well connected because that gives us, now we're at +4, not +5, +4. So that would give us 5 versus 3. So that gives us 5 versus 3. And then we either move into the hallway and evade the ghoul minion. Yeah. And then we leave the Ravenous Ghoul behind. And then once we've evaded the ghoul minion, I suppose we could kill the ghoul minion. 4, 5 versus 3. Well, let's do this. Let's first thing I think we do is evade the Ravenous Ghoul. So let's exhaust well connected. So that gives us +4 to this skill value. So that gives us a 5 versus a 3. Chaos Bag gives us a +1, so we managed to evade the... so that was our first action. We evaded the Ravenous Ghoul. So now we have a couple of choices. We could bring out the knife and we could do some damage to the Ravenous Ghoul. Or we could move to the hallway and then evade the ghoul minion in the hallway, which is an easier thing to do. Because it's probably a case, probably a case we're going to have to kill the Ravenous Ghoul or the ghoul minion. And to be honest, killing the Ravenous Ghoul is more of a big issue than killing the ghoul minion. So what I'm inclined to do is move and get out of the... because we've got to make it as easy for ourselves as possible. So I'm going to get out of the cellar. And for our third action, I'm going to evade the ghoul minion. So what we're going to do for that is spend these resources. One, might as well spend them all because we're going to lose them anyway. 2, 3, 4. So +4. So that gives us a 5 evasion versus 2. 5 versus 2. Chaos Bag gives us another +1. Wow. So we evade the ghoul minion. That was another +1, wasn't it? Yep. Wow, 2 +1s in a row. Okay, so we've evaded the ghoul minion. So I think what we do is we probably look to deal with it next time. I think we need to get rid of it because we don't want multiple ghouls on us. Okay, so that's the end of our go. So that was a bit of a frustrating turn of events. But what we did is we managed to evade the Ravenous Ghoul thanks to Well Connected. We then moved up into the hallway and we evaded the ghoul minion, which is much easier to deal with. And we've got our hands sort of getting back up to where it should be. So the enemy phase, there are no enemies to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase and we get Cunning. So this is a good card. I'm feeling like now, because that gives us +3, that means I think we should get Leader Chandler on board. Because if we get Leader Chandler on board, that would give the knife +2 and +1 damage. If only we had a backstab or something, so we can maybe take another go to try and get some better cards. But I'm starting to feel like we've got the cards in place, as long as we've got the resources in place to actually do what we need to do. So what we need to do is, there's a couple of things. First of all, we've got to deal with this ghoul minion because we've just got to get rid of it. That's the first thing. Second thing is to get some kind of weapon onto the table, which we can do. And then I think what we do then is, because we've got to do all of this before the agenda flips, is then we then look to evade the Ghoul Priest, which we should have the resources to do by then. We then get into the parlour and we use things like Cunning to get Leader Chandler on board. Well-connected Cunning, whatever it takes to get her on board. And then once we've got her on board and we've got the knife or whatever, then I think we might be in a position to kill the Ghoul Priest. That's the feeling I've got, particularly if we've got enough resources, just chuck in fight and we should be able to kill the Ghoul Priest relatively easy. If we get a backstab, I think we're in a really, really good position, because backstab could mean we can do... If we've got backstab with Leader Chandler, then we've got like 3, 4, like we can basically kill the Ghoul Priest in almost one go, I think. So there we go. Ghoul minion's back onto us. We're here in the hallway. Okay, so we're getting there. We've just got a couple of things that we've got to do. Mythos Phase is now 5 on here, so we are running out of time. We do need to get things done relatively quickly. So let's see what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has for us Grasping Hands. Okay, so that's damage, which is not quite as bad as the horror, but basically we've got a test 3 for each point we fail by. We take a damage. Now we can't use the family inheritance. There isn't any in there. We don't want to bring this down, really. So I think we use the Well Connected. So we exhaust Well Connected. So that's a +4. So 4, we're a 5 versus a 3. I'm going to spend one of these. So that's a 6 versus a 3. I want to make sure we pass it. Chaos Bag gives us a... well, there we go. Okay, well, that's an auto fail, which means we take 3 damage. That's really bad. 1, 2, 3. So there we go. We are... yes, that was very unfortunate. But however, we failed, so we can exhaust the Rabbit's Foot. And we can draw a card. Oh. And we get another Well Connected. We don't need... Well, we can only have one Well Connected, but we can use the Pip. But still no Baseball Bat, still no Leo DeLuca, anything like that. Okie dokie. So that's the end of the Mythos Phase. So we move into the Investigation Phase. 3 actions on to Preston. Now we could just try and evade the ghoul, the ghoul minion. Well, I think we're going to need to evade the ghoul minion. 4 on here at the very least, and then we need to bring some things out. So yeah, so I think we're a 1, it's a 2, but we spend some of these, so that's 2, 3, 4. That would give us a 2 versus a 4. Oh, it'd be good to... I think we make it a... 2 versus a 5. Okay, 2 versus a 5. Chaos Bag gives us -2. I think we probably over-egged it a tiny bit there, but that's alright. Yeah. Ghoul Minion's exhausted. Oh, where's it gone? That was our first action. Second action. Spend a resource. Or do we use emergency cash? I think we do. I think we use emergency cash, which puts 3 resources onto here. So for our second action, we do that. And then for our third action, we spend one of the resources and bring out the knife. So that's both our hand slots used up. So there we go. That was all we did this turn, is we evaded the Ghoul Priest. We used emergency cash to give us extra cash. And then we brought out the knife, which means we've done one of the things we need to do, which is to get a weapon into our hands, which we need. So there we go. That's the enemy phase. There are no enemies that are going to do anything to us this go. So upkeep phase. Now he turns up. So I can see right now what's going to happen. We are definitely moving to a place where we are going to get Leader Chandler on board, because it's way, way too late for Leo DeLuca. So we're going to need that. But anyway, it's nice to see him there, but it would have been nice to see him at the beginning. Okay, so we move into turn 10. And you know what? I'm pretty happy with the way Preston has gone, to be honest. I thought he wouldn't last like he has, so I'm pretty happy with how he's gone. But there is now 6 on here. This will flip the next time, so things are going to get very, very, very nasty very quickly. So yeah, so anyway, let's see what the encounter deck has. The encounter deck has, well, good job we played that knife then, because we get dissonant voices into play. So that means we can't play any assets or events. So luckily we got the knife in play when we did. And these should be gone. They should have gone from last time. Sorry, not doing my housekeeping very well. Okay, so there we go. So we got a dissonant voices, but that's okay. We weren't planning on bringing anything out this time, so that's no big deal. So we move into the investigation phase. We put 3 actions onto Preston. And this is really... So next time this is going to flip. So this is really our last chance before this is going to flip to do things. So obviously we're going to evade... Well, we could either evade the Ghoul minion, or we could attempt to kill the Ghoul minion. I think the problem with not killing the Ghoul minion at this stage is that if we draw another Ghoul minion, I know I've already had one, but I think they will shuffle back in, is we could end up with the Ghoul Priest and 2 Ghoul minions, and no way, we don't have elusive, we don't have things like that. So we could take 2 actions to fight the Ghoul minion and get rid of it. That would be one course of action. We could evade the Ghoul minion, and then we could draw cards and hopefully draw into something like an elusive or something like that. or we could because if we end up with 3, if we throw in, you see, I'm thinking we should maybe delay the Ghoul Priest, but then again, if we do that, then we're going to have, we're going to have this guy moving in to the hallway, and then we're going to have to deal with him, Ravenous Ghoul. So, actually, losing that card earlier with what was it called? Losing this card earlier, Survival Instinct, was actually a bit unfortunate. But anyway. So, do we spend 2 turns to fight? Or do we... hold on. Put the 4 on here. I don't think so. I think actually what we do is we just try and maximize our resources and maximize our hand size. So the way that Preston's going to win is by having as many resources and as much of a hand size as possible. The thing about killing the ghoul minion is more limited, because we spend 2 turns killing him, assuming we succeed twice, and then we've got 1 more turn. Whereas if we evade him, it gives us 2 extra actions. Even though we can't play anything, it allows us to draw more cards, and then that gives us just more things to manage. Got to be careful though, because we're up to 7 cards. Well, we don't need the flashlight, but actually that would be good for Leader Chandler. So, we could be looking to discard something, but I think that's fine. So I think what we do is, I'm not inclined to kill but evade. So because evasion is relatively easy with well connected, so I think we exhaust well connected, which gives us a +4, and we seek to evade the ghoul minion. So that's 5 versus a 2. Chaos Bag gives us a skull, so that's fine. It's evaded. Again, where have they gone? Oh, they had Leo DeLuca. Well, you know what? We could bring out Leo DeLuca now, and that would give us an extra turn, but we would 4, 5, 6 resources. Maybe it would be worthwhile bringing out Leo DeLuca, actually thinking about it, because even though we can't play Leo DeLuca. We can't play Leo DeLuca. Of course we can't. Okay, so let's do some drawing, and if we can, we'll spend the money. So let's go second action. We'll draw a card. Of all the times to get the lodge debts. Oh, well. No, we can't discard lodge debts. So, yeah. As you know, you can't discard events like weaknesses unless there's some reason for that. So, except it's a random lost. Okay, so all right. So we've got 1 action left. So either we put 5 more resources into Preston, or we draw another card. That's actually quite a dilemma, because 25 resources would mean we're a +5, which means we're much more likely. I think I'm going to do that. So for the final action, I'm going to move these resources here into Preston. So we're up to 25 resources now. Okay, so that's the end of our turn. So we evaded the Ghoul Priest. We drew lodge debts. Bugger. And basically that means we just suffer a mental trauma. That's all. And we then transferred some more money. So we now have 25 resources in our hand. Quite amazing. So here we go. It's the enemy phase. The enemy is exhausted. Enemy's back now. Yes, we get the backstab. All right, so we've got to throw something away here. I think the obvious thing to throw away is the flashlight. We're not going to be using the flashlight, so I'll select that. We can't throw away lodged debts. It'd be nice if we could just chuck it, but you're not allowed to do that. So there we go. So, and this obviously Dissonant Voices goes. So there we go. So we're at the end of the round. So we have a couple of choices here. I'll just put this back here. We could trigger the Ghoul Priest now, which would mean we would have at least the Ghoul Minion and the Ghoul Priest on us in the hallway. Or we could wait, which would mean that next turn we would have another round where we could do things, like we could bring out Leo DeLuca, for example. However, the problem with that is then when the enemy phase comes around, we will end up with the Ravenous Ghoul in the hallway. So then we're dealing with not one but two ghouls. So the problem is then we're in a position where we've got to then try and evade two things, and then when the Ghoul Priest turns up, we've then got three things. So whilst it seems like a really good idea to evade the Ghoul, to not bring out the Ghoul Priest now, the reality is that the quicker we get into the parlour in some way, the better off that we are. And if we avoid it again, we're just going to end up having to deal with more and more ghouls, and our capacity to do that will be diminished quickly, because what will happen is we'll end up spending cards and resources, and very quickly we will end up being overwhelmed. And there's one thing Preston can't deal with, is being overwhelmed by too many things. Having said that, if we do, I'm just thinking it through, if we do go another round without the Ghoul Priest, and that's assuming we don't get another ghoul on us, which we could, it does mean we could bring out something like Leo DeLuca, which would give us an extra go. It's unfortunate we couldn't do that last time. And the problem is we're at 5 health, so our ability to soak up attacks of opportunity are kind of limited as well. Yeah. Just thinking with the Ghoul Priest though, if we do this and we do +2 damage, we can, in the first instance, we can actually hit the Ghoul Priest. If we use the knife, in fact, if we threw the knife, we would do 1, 2, we would do 4 points of damage. So actually, and we've got things like Money Talks, which means we get skill value is like, oh, okay, so I think actually I think that's the thing to do. I don't think we actually, no, I'm just thinking about it now, I think we're fine. I think we can just kill the Ghoul Priest, because we can use, even if we just fight with a +1 for the attack, I mean, if we do the backstab first, that would be the thing. We'd backstab, we do 3 points, and then we can just throw the knife and do another 2 points. I think we're fine. I think that's what we do. I think we can kill the Ghoul Priest. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. I'm trying to think, how do we get into the parlour? How do we get Leader Chandler? We just kill the Ghoul Priest. So let's do it. Okay, so let's spend the three clues. And here we go, the barrier. So, using the barrel from the attic Jeeves carries ice and snow from the cellar and hurls it at the barrier. Well done, Jeeves! The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice, then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage to the parlour is vanished. Reveal the parlour. Put Leader Chandler in the parlour. Oh, hello, Preston. How are you? Oh, you're looking very handsome. If you want me to help you, I'm prepared to, but you might need to just help me out, if you know what I mean. Bit of money going anyway, and set aside the Ghoul Priest in the hallway. Hello, oh, it's you. Maybe we can be friends. So there we go. Right. What have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlour, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams, furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you, and a creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing towards you. I say, is it fancy dress? I didn't know that was today. Hey, what fun, Jeeves. Where's mine? If the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. There we go. So, there we go. We are all ready to roll. Okay. So, move into the Mythos Phase. So that's the 7. So this flips. A feral beast, roughly humanoid with a canine cast and hooves for feet, tears through the ground in front of you. Below the floor, you see vast tunnels beneath your house. Fiendish howling echoes from deep within the underground caverns. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard cards from the top until a ghoul enemy is discarded and the lead investigator draws that enemy. Okay, so let's do that. Let's shuffle the encounter deck, yes, into there. There we go. And we will shuffle it up again for good measure, and we will start drawing from here. And we get, no, yes, we get another ghoul minion. Here we go. Oh, party time! I say, is it fancy dress party? What fun! And so here we go. They're getting out. You hear crazed howl outside. Suddenly all the creatures turn their attention to that sound. They rush to escape the house, breaking down doors and clawing at everything in their way. At the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul enemy moves one location towards the parlour. That's the Ravenous Ghoul. And at the end of the round, place 1 doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or parlour. Okay, this is it. This is crunch time, ladies and gentlemen. That's the... and before we forget, we have an encounter card to draw, and we get... Oh, no. Okay, well, actually, it's Rotting Remains, so it's not Grasping Hands, so we have some space with horror. In fact, we can... It's a good job we didn't take that to horror earlier, because even if we fail it, we are fine. And yes, so... what do we do here? Because we could start using things like well connected to actually, because do I want to keep well connected? So the thing is, right, so we could automatically fail Rotting Remains and draw another card, which means basically we're probably in a position where unless we auto-fail something and we get retaliated, we're going to die. But then I've just thought, even if we kept to horror and we used up our other resources and skills to do things, we're at 5 damage. So even if we did all of that, we would still die. So an auto-fail is going to kill us, because we don't have Leo DeLuca, we don't have any way of absorbing damage, we don't have a leather coat, we don't have anything like that. So what I don't want to do is use up the resources we do have on this Rotting Remains. I think I'm probably better off just failing it, taking the 3 horror. There's no... Yeah, if we get the tablet, though, we'd be okay. So we'd be okay. So I think that's probably the way to go. So I think what we do is we fail this, we get a card draw, and we take the 3 horror because, we can. So let's go ahead and see what we get from the... We get a +1. We get a +1 from the Chaos bag. Very generous of the Chaos bag, which gives us a massive 2 willpower. Interesting, we don't have any willpower cards that we could have committed either. So we do fail. So it's 3. Actually, it's a 3 versus a 2. So actually, amazingly, we only failed by 1. So we just take a horror. So actually, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So there we go. So we took a horror, 3 versus 2. We took 1 horror. And there we go. That's the end of the encounter deck phase, the encounter phase, the Mythos phase. So we're in the final phase. This is it. In the investigation phase, we put 4 resources onto our family inheritance. We have such a massive amount of cash. We failed. Sorry. Exhaust the rabbit's foot. Nearly forgot. Draw a card and we get an emergency cash of all the cards to get. Of all the cards. See what I mean? Why was it... Anyway. Okay. So here we are. We've got 3 actions on Preston. We have a knife in the hand. We've got hard knocks. So we're going to try... What we're going to do is kill this Ghoul Priest. So the first thing I think we do is... We could either evade and do 2 points. Let's start with backstab, though, because backstab is obviously the best thing to do. So we'll bring out backstab. So we use our agility instead of our fight. And this attack does +2 damage. Okay, so this is our first action. We are going to backstab the Ghoul Priest. Now, we've got a couple of things we could do here. We could just pump a whole lot of money into it. But I think I'm inclined to use one of these. Fast play, when you would initiate a skill test. Instead of the skill type, this is a resource skill test. Your base skill value of this test is equal to half the number of resources in your resource pool. So we're like a +13. So, is that right? The skill value of this test is equal to half the number of resources in your resource pool. We're a +13. Okay. Yeah, I can see how we can do this so easily. So there we go. So we're we're a +14 to backstab. Okay, so the only way we can possibly fail this is to get the auto fail. So let's see what happens. Chaos Bag says 0. Ow! So we do 3 points of damage. I can't even imagine, like I'm trying to imagine, sometimes how I try and conjure up what's happening in the invest. I can't even imagine how this works. I've backstabbed by spending a shit ton of money. I just don't know. Anyway, I've hired a ninja. I've hired a ninja to leap down from the roof and backstab the Ghoul Priest. So there we go. That's the first action. 3 points. Too easy. Now the second action is so our second action. I'm thinking that we can throw the knife. So there's 2 ways we can do this. We could either evade and just sneak attack, or we can just throw the knife. I'm thinking probably throw the knife, because that gives us +2 fight and +1 damage. Whereas the other way, it's evade. So it's either we evade or we fight. But I think it's pretty much of a muchness, to be honest. Because if we don't succeed, we're going to die anyway. So let's do it. So we throw the knife. We discard the knife. So this is our second action. We get +2 fight, which means that brings our fight up to 3. But we're going to play this, which is another one. Fast, when you would initiate a skill, instead of a skill type, half of your value again of your resources in your resource pool. So again, we're like a +14 fight So basically, as long as we don't auto-fail, we're going to do 2 damage. The crowd goes hushed. The ninjas, even the ninja has stopped, hushed, as Preston throws the knife. It zings through the air, and Chaos Bag has -1. Hey, there we go. 2 points of damage. The Ghoul Priest goes down. Ah! Ladies and gentlemen, Preston Fairmont is waving to the crowd. It's unbelievable. He's managed to kill the Ghoul Priest. Everybody's waving and cheering. He's throwing money at the crowd. Everybody's very happy. Wow, what a he didn't manage to get rid of his lodge debt, so he will take a mental trauma, but he managed to get everything done in 11 turns, which for someone who starts on a 1-1-1-1 was quite an incredible outcome. Really, it was cards like Well Connected and Hard Knocks that really made sure that we were able to do that. And then these cards here, Money Talks, my goodness, they came at the right time and made it really easy. Only thing that could happen was auto-fail. So money really does talk when you've got lots of cash, and that was certainly the case. It would have been nice to have gotten Leader Chandler on board, but it was not going to happen. But we didn't need her anyway. So there we go. Thank you very, very much for watching. I really do appreciate everything that people say and comment about the Investigator Games. Please like and subscribe and comment. The table with Preston in it will be after this. Next episode, in episode 26, Rita Young will be racing through the gathering, and we will see how she goes. But until that time, I'm Krabby Terror 8. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.